Hey folks, this is Riker, and the aRPG world is changed forever. End of an era, with the retirement of one of the most prominent names in this space. Meanwhile, we learned that Diablo 4's first expansion was secretly delayed by 6 months, and data mines are hinting at what's around the corner. We got a timeline for Path of Exile 2's next big update. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is shattering records. Hades 2 just got a massive Warsong update. And the Blood of the Dawnwalker devs want to let you kill important NPCs just for fun. Oh, and new leaks for the Elder Scrolls 6 suggest we might finally be getting a proper reveal this summer. That's just scratching the surface, so stick around because we're breaking down all the biggest gaming stories of the week right now. And also be sure to ring that sub-notification bell to be alerted to new Saturday episodes. But before we move on, a word from this video's sponsor, Boot.dev. If you're interested in learning programming, either as a hobby or as a profession, check this out. Boot.dev has gamified learning to code. They've literally built an online programming course into a programming RPG. You gain XP, you complete quests, you level up, you earn achievements, and you can rank on a global leaderboard, all while learning fully at your own pace. Boot.dev believes that the key to learning is to ensure you're never bored. With this program, you'll learn the programming languages Python and Go at your own pace. You're going to learn back-end web development from start to finish. And it's designed to get you to write a ton of code, since they believe that practice is the most important way to learn coding. Programmers in the US can earn six-figure incomes, but this isn't some garage quick scheme. Boot.dev believes that you have to dive deep into mastering the fundamentals, and they want you to be as prepared as possible before you go job hunting. If you ever find yourself struggling, you can consult with Boots, an AI bear wizard that's been trained in every lesson and can walk you through your issues. He won't just give you the answers, he'll try to get you to grasp the concepts and find the solution yourself. But if you're ever really stuck or just want to compare your code to the instructor, there are solutions available for every challenge on the site. So, click the link in the description box and use my code Riker to get 25% off your first payment for Boot.dev. That's 25% off your first month or first year, depending on the subscription you choose. Alright, starting with Diablo 4 news, Blizzard's latest patch cycle has been a mixed bag of promising changes, quirky mishaps, and a few head scratchers. So, we've had a number of bugs since the season started, right? And Blizzard's been systematically fixing them. But the Necromancer's Ring of Mendeln continued to be a recurring headache. Now, a patch released this week with what was supposed to be a fix for the ring, but as players logged in eager to finally get the Ring of Mendeln fix, they realized it's still totally broken. Now, some people start to speculate that Blizzard may have pushed out the wrong build of the game with that patch, which would explain why some fixes were not working as expected. I don't know about that, but we did get another patch later in the week that partially fixed the Ring of Mendeln, so fingers crossed that it'll be fully working in time for Season 8. Now, this week's patch also implemented a change that has been confusing some players, but it's actually a good thing. The Blood Maiden in Helltide can now spawn in different places, as opposed to always in that same location, so those of you who memorized where she spawns are not finding her there anymore. But we also have some players reporting that they can't find her at all. And, I mean, we have to assume in good faith that they looked everywhere and she literally didn't spawn. So it could be that there's some bug where she doesn't spawn, because at the very least, some people are saying that they see her spawn, but some of her altars are stuck in geometry and you can't interact with it. So, whoops. Meanwhile, speaking at DICE 2025 in Las Vegas recently, Diablo boss Rod Ferguson spilled some behind-the-scenes tea about Diablo 4's first expansion. It apparently got delayed by about 6 months because the team had to shuffle staff around to tackle bugs and ensure the live content kept running smoothly. We all know the many reworks that D4 went through in its first year. But that means that the original release date for Vessel of Hatred was intended to be around April 2024, less than 1 year after the launch of the game. And that lines up roughly with D4's 4th season, which began in May. Ferguson apparently also acknowledged at DICE that they originally wanted to do annual expansions, which he had publicly said at some point previously, and we kept that in mind, the community. We kept expecting annual expansions, and then at some point later he kind of took back the statement and said he never said that. But now he has said that was the case, at DICE at least. So original plan was yearly expansions. Clearly now we're not getting yearly expansions. The second expansion is coming, as was confirmed at DICE, in 2026. So again, it's going to be more than a year between Vessel of Hatred and Expansion 2. Now, Ferguson also spoke about how after the Season 1 nerf fiesta that got, a couple of players upset a little bit. They're just slightly annoyed, right? Since then, he kept looking at provisional patch notes and repeating to the team, lots of medicine, but I don't see much sugar. And he just wanted to ensure that patches would not just be nerfs, but also include stuff for players to get excited about. It basically became a mantra of his. And he also advocated for the PTR, the test server that we've been getting since I think it was Season 4. He was saying how it's better to ruin the surprise for 10,000 people so that millions could have a great season. Because that was kind of always one of the arguments against PTR. It's like, oh, well, because some other games, for instance, don't do it, right? And if all the new content comes at the launch of a season, then everything is novel. Whereas if you reveal your hand before the season launches, well, you take away some of the excitement of the season itself. But I think PTRs have been nothing but a good thing. I think every season since the implementation of PTR has had a smoother launch than in the past. He also said that the team saw Diablo 4 player counts jump significantly once they posted a roadmap of upcoming features for the far future. And I'm actually not sure what roadmap he may be talking about. Maybe from BlizzCon 2023 when they revealed Vessel of Hatred and they spoke about Abattoir of Zir. I guess that was kind of a roadmap of what was to come. So if they saw a surge in players after that, maybe it's because of the roadmap, maybe it was just general excitement over, Diablo, lots of Diablo news at BlizzCon. You could be referring to some other roadmap that I'm blanking on at this point. Meanwhile, the Mother's Blessing event is currently ongoing. It's going to last until February 25th. So if you want to level a new character this season, this is the time to do it because of all the XP gains you can get. And as we're gearing up for an eventual return of the March of the Goblins event, we may have more exciting stuff coming that way. I was never really enthused by March of the Goblins, but we seem to be getting more stuff in it now, at least according to a Wowhead data mine, which has found a number of new goblin-related reward caches. There's a bunch of goblin caches of different rarities, some that are rune caches, some that are Undercity tribute caches. There are also unceasing caches, which Wowhead believes may be related to repeatable turn-in rewards, either like the final level of a reputation track or the repeatable mercenary turn-in. Then there's also a bunch of weird, unique goblin bags. Baron's Gift, Ector's Gift, Merle's Gift, Prim's Gift, and Fedric's Gift. Each of these contains specific kinds of drops, but also has a listed upgrade. 5% increased chance for goblins to drop treasure bags during March of the Goblins. Now, is this a permanent buff you get for opening each of these items? Are these bags that we're going to be earning on the reputation track, and therefore you're only ever going to get one of them? Are these specific named goblins that we have to find in the world? Lots of questions here, and we'll probably find out soon enough. And we'll end the Diablo section of this video with a couple of quality of life suggestions. So first off, with how many whispers that we're doing this season and how quick it is to fill up on whispers. While yes, it is nice to have the bird as an option for turn-ins instead of having to port back to the Tree of Whispers, and it's doubly nice and appreciated to have even more birds that were added mid-season. It's still not quite enough. Whispers just fill up really fast, and having to turn in is just an interruption in game flow, and it's especially problematic if you're in a party because you tend to not be in sync with each other on your whisper turn-ins. And just like, I don't know about you folks, but how many times has it happened to you that you complete a whisper, completing that whisper fills up the whispers, and you want to go turn in, but oh wait, now a headless husk is spawning, or maybe a head full husk, whatever. And you don't want to miss that part in case a head drops or, just loot in general. But wait a minute, then if you kill the husk while your whispers are full, then you won't get credit for the whisper with the objective of killing the husk, right? Because every whisper zone has one of the whispers as the objective is to kill one of these husks. So it's just a lose-lose situation. Now the birds are a band-aid solution to the underlying problem. If we can just stack multiple whispers worth of turn-ins and then do like 3 turn-ins at once, or otherwise turn whispers into a currency like with mercenaries. Every completed whisper gives you currency, and then you need 10 of the currency to cash in a reward. You can do it whenever you want. There's no time pressure. When the game launched, it took long enough to complete a round of whispers that this wasn't really an issue, but the pace of the game has increased tremendously since then, both in terms of how quickly we complete whispers and also how much whispers are worth. It's just like you do fewer whispers to get a full turn in now. And my second suggestion, my plea for the 23rd week running now, conduit shrines. That is all. Alright, on to some Path of Exile news. Let's start with the biggest news in the PoE world, and frankly, the aRPG world this week. Chris Wilson is officially gone from GGG. The longtime face of Path of Exile and Grinding Gear Games quietly stepped away. January 21st was his official departure, which is especially sad for me because that was actually my birthday. Worst birthday present ever. After 15 years being a shaper of the aRPG genre, this is truly the end of an era. Now, unofficially, Chris has likely been gone for a while now, or at least transitioning to his retirement for a while now. His absence has been felt for, over the past year. And it's kind of sad that we come to learn about his official departure via some Snoopy boys spotting an online governmental corporation filing that shows that he ceased position as director. That's how we find out, not through a farewell post, no final bye. I was Chris Wilson from Grinding Gear Games. For reasons we can only speculate on, both GGG and Chris have been quiet about things. If I had to guess, I'm thinking that Chris doesn't want his departure to cast a pall on what should be a celebratory time for the company, with the success of PoE 2's early access. Obviously, whenever someone leaves, there's always going to be speculation of, oh, things are going bad, oh, he's upset about Tencent, oh, he doesn't believe in PoE 2, and again, if I had to guess, he just wants to avoid that. I'm guessing they didn't expect people to snoop on their corporate records and learn this now. I think they wanted to do it in their own time. But whatever the reason may be, the man has earned his retirement. He takes his place now alongside the other aRPG dev gods. Starting off as a fan of the fathers of Diablo and now finding himself in the same pantheon of people who have left their indelible mark on the aRPG genre. His journey has been incredible. And I'll never forget the infectious emotion he carried with him as he walked on stage at his first Exile Con in 2019, the culmination of over a decade of his life's work. We basically got to see a man realize his dream, and it's a beautiful thing. Now, on the Path of Exile 2 front, the 0.2.0 update is set to launch in about a month. But in the meantime, GGG has introduced a new race event, or a series of race events actually, starting on March 2nd. And these will be the first competitive events in PoE 2, and they're going to feature the new Demigod's Virtue unique item as a reward, with the top placement in each class getting their hands on one. Here's how it all works. Players will race to kill Doriani in Act 3 in a solo self-found fixed layout environment. It's not a hardcore event, but if you die, you'll have to sit through a 1-minute timeout as a penalty because you've been naughty. Now, the fastest player in the final event on March 16th will even win a custom decaled Alienware laptop. And while it's great to see race events making a return in PoE 2, some players aren't thrilled about the format. There's no ongoing point reward system like the old PoE 1 race events, meaning unless you're a speedrunning god or one of the top skilled streamers, there's not much incentive to participate since you're extremely unlikely to win. Now, on the gameplay side, PoE 2 continues to improve with a new patch adding the much requested feature of the map stash tab, which can now store up to 576 waystones, very specific number. We also got a variety of bug fixes. Overall, the patch is very solid, but players are obviously still waiting for the big 0.2.0 update. I imagine we're going to see a huge resurgence of players when that happens. Oh, and one little, I don't know if it's a nitpick or actually a legit complaint. The map tab does not store precursor tablets, so everyone was like overjoyed to get the map tab, the map tab, and then they open it up and they're like, hey, wait a minute, where do I put my precursor tablets? And there's speculation that we will need the Fragments tab to put our precursor tablets in. Then in PoE 1, the Legacy of Frisia event kicked off this week. Neversink updated his loot filter to support the new idols, and he also promised a large update coming to his PoE 2 filter. As always, you can find those on the website filterblade.xyz. Now, if you've been playing Legacy of Frisia, sound off in the comments with your thoughts. What ascendancy are you trying? What are you most hyped about? I'm hoping to have time to jump in next week. Alright, on to some news about Avowed and its dev studio Obsidian Entertainment, which has been making RPGs for over 2 decades now. And according to their leadership, they plan to keep at it for the next century. No joke. Actually, they want to be a 100-year studio. And they're doing that not by chasing industry trends or ballooning into a massive corporate machine, but by staying lean and making the games that they actually want to make. At the DICE Summit, Obsidian's VP of Operations Marcus Morgan, as well as VP of Development Justin Britch, laid out their vision for the studio's long-term sustainability. Instead of chasing huge profits, they budget every game with the expectation that it'll be a mild success, not some record-breaking blockbuster. So they keep a tight scope on their games, not aiming for massive AAA budgets and therefore needing to make massive AAA returns. It's a refreshingly honest approach, especially in an industry where many studios overextend themselves, chasing massive hits, and then collapse under their own weight. One way they're keeping things sustainable as well is by avoiding unnecessary expansion, not of games, but of their studios and their teams. For instance, they had considered opening multiple international offices, but they decided instead of doing that to just partner with existing studios, rather than risk losing the tight-knit company culture that has come to define Obsidian. It's a stark contrast to the growth at all cost mindset we see from a lot of major publishers. Company starts off small, gets success, grows bigger, and because they get so big, their culture has to change. It's impossible to retain the same culture of a small company when you grow into a large behemoth. And as we said, Obsidian is not kidding about wanting to be around for 100 years. They point out that Nintendo has been around since 1889, so why not them? Their philosophy is reflected very much in their latest release, Avowed. The game launched with mostly positive reviews, sitting at a 79% positive reviews on Steam, 81 out of 100 average critic score on OpenCritic, with 85% of critics recommending it. While it's not redefining the RPG genre, it's resonating with a lot of players, especially those who are looking for a more approachable, action-driven take on the Pillars of Eternity universe. Now, that said, reception has been mixed, as the numbers suggest. Some players are absolutely hooked, praising Avowed's world design and its engaging combat, while others feel the game falls short in the areas that matter most for an RPG: writing, characters, role-playing depth, the world's reactivity. Some comparisons have been made to Dragon Age the Veilguard, with Avowed being seen as the better executed, actionized RPG, though it's still not quite what some fans hoped for from a Pillars of Eternity 3, as some kind of feel that it was like a spiritual successor to Pillars of Eternity 2. Now, Obsidian also responded quickly to early gameplay complaints, pushing out a balancing patch to address issues like the punishing item tier system. Now, whether that's enough to win over some of the skeptics is to be seen, but it does show that the studio is listening to feedback and adjusting accordingly. At the end of the day, Avowed isn't trying to be the biggest RPG on the market. It's just another step in Obsidian's long-term game plan. They're not chasing the live service gold rush. They're not cranking out content to hit corporate revenue targets. They're just making solid RPGs, budgeting smartly, and ensuring, that they're going to be around for another 78 years. But what do you folks think? Are you a fan of Obsidian and their approach? Have you tried Avowed? Sound off in the comments. Moving on to some Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 news, because this game is absolutely crushing it. In just 2 weeks, it's already sold 2 million copies and hit a peak concurrent player count of over 250,000 on Steam, more than double what the first game ever saw. 92% positive reviews on Steam. 97% of critics on OpenCritic recommend it. Safe to say, War Horse Studios knocked it out of the park with this one. And honestly, the praise isn't just about the numbers. A lot of players are calling this one of the best RPGs they've ever played. And for good reason. It takes everything that made the original game special and refines it to near perfection. They didn't water down the experience or chase trends, they just made everything better. More cinematic, better optimized, and somehow, despite its massive scope, relatively bug-free. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is shaping up to be one of the standout RPGs of the year. Some players are already calling it their dream RPG, saying they wish Elder Scrolls would take notes. I can honestly see this being a contender for Game of the Year already. Now, if you're just jumping into the game, here's a pro tip. Don't ditch your starting horse, Pebbles. She seems awful at first. She's slow, she's weak, she's easily spooked, but if you stick with her and ride about 35 kilometers, she unlocks a hidden perk called Good Old Pebbles, which suddenly turns her into one of the best horses in the game. Fast, strong, and you can finally win that frustrating race against the Voivode's son. Now, speaking of Elder Scrolls, according to a well-known leaker, the Elder Scrolls 6 may be showcased as early as this summer. July, specifically. This is as per Extrasis, who was right about a couple of other leaks we covered in the last few months. I just started hearing about this guy, I think in like December or something. And I was like, okay, I don't know if we can trust him. I looked into him, I saw his track record was good. And then the leaks that we covered that he spoke about turned out to be true. So, you know, I'm believing this guy at this point. He went on to claim that The Elder Scrolls 6 will feature at least a dozen large cities, dragons from Skyrim are coming back, and it's also going to have a flexible leveling mechanic. So it's not like class-based progression, but rather activity-based progression. Thinking back to the old days of you jumping a lot to get your athleticism up. He also said that there may be naval battles and shipbuilding inspired by Starfield. Then in other news, the creative director behind The Blood of the Dawnwalker, the upcoming open-world vampire RPG by former CD Projekt Red devs, is planning to lean into more freedom than in The Witcher 3, where he was the lead quest designer. Freedom of choice, that is. Now, one of the biggest draws of The Blood of the Dawnwalker is its commitment to sandbox gameplay. They're going to allow players to kill off NPCs, including some who are critical to the game's story. And as the director puts it, quote, "We allow you to kill off a lot of NPCs, and a lot of them can be really important NPCs. That means your actions will have real consequences, potentially cutting off quest lines and leading to alternate outcomes. This ties into the game's vampiric mechanics as well. Your character's blood hunger at night could lead to, unintended deaths and consequences. I can see a lot of us RPG gamers who like to keep all of our options open and kind of have choice paralysis. We're probably going to find ourselves trying to avoid killing anybody for fear of them being an important quest NPC. Now, beyond player freedom, The Blood of the Dawnwalker is also shaping up to be a more condensed RPG experience compared to The Witcher 3. While The Witcher 3 could easily stretch into a 100-plus hour game, Dawnwalker is targeting a tighter 30 to 40 hour campaign. And the director and his new studio, Rebel Wolves, they're still aiming for AAA quality. But since they're a smaller studio, they can't do AAA quality and AAA scope, so they'd rather stick to quality and scale down the scope. But I mean, hey, 30 to 40 hours is still a ton of gameplay. We're just not going to get an overwhelming sprawl of side content. We're going to get a more streamlined, story-driven experience, which is a nice change of pace. A lot of these open-world games prioritize quantity over quality. As long as the game delivers on its depth and quality, this could be a standout entry in the genre. In other news, Supergiant Games has dropped the Warsong update for Hades 2, the much-anticipated sequel to their award-winning roguelite dungeon crawler. This marks the second major update since the game entered early access, bringing in a host of new content, including expanded encounters at the end of the surface route, and the introduction of Ares, who, as expected, is all about that violence. Players can also expect updates to the Arcana system, improvements to resource collection, and a variety of tweaks and balance changes. As for a full 1.0 release, there's still no official timeline. If we use Hades 1 as a reference, which spent about 2 years in early access, we're probably looking at late 2025 or early 2026 for the full release of Hades 2. But given Supergiant's track record, they're going to take as much time as they need to get it right. In the meantime, though, if you're a fan of Hades, you might want to check out Echoes of Mystralia. It's obviously very inspired by Hades, but it features a level of skill expression that I don't get from Hades that I actually really, really like. Coming from an aRPG background, it feels like they're trying to lean a little bit on aRPG in that way, and I really like it. You basically build out skill trees to modify your skills as you play, with the order in which you apply different modifiers, different upgrades to your skills actually mattering. Now, they currently have a free playtest running until February 27th, if you folks want to give it a go. What they have available of the game right now is basically a demo. You'll probably be done with it in about an hour. But there's a speedrun contest that is live until the 24th. Prizes to be won there if you want to try it out. You can check the links in the description. It's worth giving this one a shot. And that's going to wrap up this video, folks, but do be sure to check out last week's video, in which we talk about how we got confirmation of the release window for Diablo 4's second expansion. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to my Patreon supporters for making these videos possible. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to join Riker's Raiders for more gaming content.